There's still some really good players having really bad seasons, so let's now find out how low can we go. If you love watching baseball and playing fantasy baseball, you probably love playing MLB The Show on PlayStation, Xbox, or Switch. Well, the best place to get those stubs without paying full price is MMOAH.com. On top of their already discounted price, you get an extra 5% off by using code ENDGAME. You can build your perfect Diamond Dynasty even faster by clicking the link in the description below and using our promo code. I'm going to start by circling back to another player who looked like a great buy low opportunity the first couple of weeks of the season and then got right and now is maybe wrong again. Kevin Gausman, the ace of the Toronto Blue Jays and should be the ace of your fantasy staff, has pitched far from it. His ERA now is almost 5 at 4.95 with a 1.51 whip. And he has earned it with an expected batting average and expected ERA ranking in the 11th percentile. Just when it looked like he was getting back on the right foot, ran into a red-hot Twins team, another bad start, and again, those ratios are off. But again, now we're looking at the fact that after several starts into this season and a little farther removed from that injury that kind of sidelined him, early in the season, maybe he's just not the same pitcher he used to be. He was able to avoid an injured list stint before the season got started, but didn't get to pitch on opening day. But we, at least excuse it and say, well, he wasn't quite right, or maybe, a little rusty because he didn't get a full spring training in. Can we use that excuse still when he's been starting ever since then? No. So are we going to say, well, maybe he's just having trouble, maybe this was just a fluke, or are we just going to go full-blown panic mode? Well, I guarantee you that his owners are now panicked because now you're looking at a guy who has been very inconsistent, very disappointing, and you wonder, is he just getting up there? This whole Blue Jays team really has been disappointing. They're last place in that division. They're going to have to climb out of that hole pretty soon, and it's been both sides. The offense has been massively disappointing, and now the pitching too. So why am I calling Gausman a buy low? Obviously, I'm trusting that the stuff is still there. I don't think it's a lingering physical issue. I really think that he was back to his mostly same self as he's been the last couple of years, which, by the way, is ace level for 3 straight seasons, the last 3 full years. He hasn't posted an ERA higher than 3.35. And he's always among the leaders in strikeouts and innings pitched. I think that he will come around. Again, this last start, yeah, it's bad. It definitely doesn't help his already not so great ratios. But again, running into not just a hot team, but it was kind of a fluky start. He didn't get really rocked, He just gave up some bloopers. The defense wasn't great. It was just kind of one of those games. So when you pile that on top of his already first bad couple of starts, I think it does make his numbers look worse than he has actually pitched. I will say I'm not worried about age or injury because his velocity is back to where it should have been, back to where it was even last season, up to about 95 on the fastball. So it's not that he's losing anything. Again, I really think we'll see vintage Gausman sooner than later. So this is the time to strike and try to get him on the cheap. And I feel to come back around again to Randy Arozarena because, man, you can still get him for discount because, man, he's still hitting terribly. Maybe it doesn't help that he did hit a home run on Tuesday night, but still, just lifting his average into like the 160 range. I mean, he's got 8 home runs, he's got 7 steals, but still, this is not exactly what you signed up for when you made him a top 50 draft pick. Even if those counting stats aren't terrible, it really feels like it because he had that one massive game about a week or so ago, and he's had a couple of little mini outbursts, but more often than not, you're seeing offers on a daily basis. Tampa's offense also has been underachieving. It feels like this whole team isn't quite right yet. So, not worried about Arozarena because there really isn't anything to this, I don't think. Although I will say there's a reason. I know why he's struggling. I just don't know when it's going to change. The deal with Randy Arozarena is it's a timing issue. Right now, against the fastball, which, let me just say, last year he had a plus 17 run value against fastball. This is a guy who crushes fastball typically. And he's got a -1 run value right now. His batting average just against four-seamers is 116 with a 41% strikeout rate. And then we look at off-speed stuff, which mainly we're talking changeups here, somehow is worse, batting .050. It's unusual for a guy to be hitting breaking stuff like sliders better than fastballs and off-speed pitches, but that's where we're at. I don't know exactly what is causing this, but I do know that everything else as far as batted ball outcomes is pretty similar for him. He's not hitting the ball into the ground too much. Launch angle isn't wonky or anything like that. Exit velocity is fine. Don't know why a guy who typically crushes the fastball is struggling so bad. You got to figure that he will at some point get right. So I'm going to buy into him because he is at least still giving you the occasional home run and he's stealing bases. That's going to be there no matter what. The batting average should get to a respectable level before long. Now, a stud offensive player that really nobody's panicking about, but you got to wonder, when is Austin Riley really going to come around? Because now you got to be getting a little bit impatient. He's only batting .245 on the season, 3 home runs. What might be worrisome to Riley owners is that he's been Iron Man the last couple of seasons, putting up a ton of plate appearances. Actually had to miss a game because of some inflammation on his side. Now, it doesn't seem like anything serious, not going to require a stint on the IL or anything like that. He should be back, and he should be fine. So I don't think this in and of itself is a reason to worry, but you got to wonder, is there something else going on? Why is he off to such a sluggish start for what's supposed to be a premier slugger? Well, I'm buying here if there's an opportunity because, again, like with Arozarena, Austin Riley just kind of not having the desired outcomes, but we don't see any drop in exit velocity. His ground ball, fly ball rate, nothing has really changed. This Braves offense, again, not that you should have expected anything like last year. Yeah, they're a great offense, but you can't really think they're going to be a record-setting offense again. But, overall, we've seen guys like Matt Olson really not get it going. Ronald Acuna has not been last year's version of Ronald Acuna. And then Austin Riley, same thing. It just seems like this whole offense is waiting to kick it into high gear. I would think that most people who drafted Austin Riley will be patient here, but you just got to wonder if this day off, this physical issue might cause a little bit more concern there, might be opening a buy low window. So I would go ahead and try it if you can. Try to pry him away from an owner who's looking for more. You're probably looking for more in terms of saves if you got Yohan Duran of the Twins, because he's supposed to be an elite closer, and yet now in 7 appearances since coming off the IL, only 3 saves. We're seeing Griffin Jax also deployed in 9th, even when Duran is available. Now, Jax has more saves than Duran on the season because obviously Duran missed the first month when he was hurt and Jax was the closer. Does this mean that this is now a committee? Seeing your supposed closer being used in like the 7th, 8th inning is not encouraging. And when it's not just, a guy randomly picking up a save. No, this is the guy who has been the closer and is being used multiple times when the supposed closer Duran is still available. I mean, this does make you wonder. While I'll say that Jax does still have some value, I think he'll still pick up a few saves along the way. Duran is still the main guy. Rocco Baldelli, manager there in the Twins, he's just one of those guys who likes to play situational ball, treats every game like it's the playoffs. He's not going to just set and forget somebody like Duran in the 9th inning only. And that's fine because more often than not, he will be the one who gets the save. And even if his save total isn't going to be among the highest of all closers going forward, I think that's okay because that's how it was last year. And if you only get, let's say, 20 to 25 saves with him, it's still worth it because he's going to get you one of the highest strikeout rates among all closers. Right now, a 33% K rate along the lines of what he did last year, and he still hasn't even given up a run yet this year. So you're getting those elite ratios. Look, if somebody is panicked and worrying, thinking that maybe he's not even going to have the job for long or he's just not going to be worth holding on to, they'd rather have somebody else, one of these temporary closers, go ahead and make a deal. All right, getting a little bit deeper here, let's look for a guy like Jonathan India as a possible bounce-back candidate. Now, that whole Reds offense has had its share of injury problems. Well, TJ Friedl, who just had come off the IL, is back on it again. Kind of a bad luck break for him, which means India might be leading off again. He just did last night. Looking at the stat line, might not interest you in India too much. He's only batting .233, 2 home runs, 4 steals. What is he really doing for your team? Well, I had talked about him a couple of weeks ago because I did feel like some positive regression was coming. I still feel that way. Now, I'm a little worried about the power because his hard hit rate is pretty low, exit velocity as well. Not really truly a power hitter, anyways. I mean, he's hit some home runs in the past, but I feel like 20 might be an absolute ceiling, and he's not showing that he's getting there this year. But I do think he can hit for average, and once he gets on base more, I think the steals will pick up as well. But of course, the fact that he might hit at the top of that lineup means more runs for him. And he is going to get this everyday playing time. Remember, to start the season, looked like he might be a utility guy. That was actually the plan for him. He's just going to play all around the diamond, DH some, and he was just DHing at first. But now he looks like an everyday player, really out of necessity. And we have seen Will Benson, who's a left-handed hitter, lead off against right-handed pitchers, so that could still happen. We're going to have to kind of monitor this going forward and see what happens and just see if India does start to step up in terms of batting average. Should be doing a little bit better, but I will just say this is a pretty cheap buy here. You can get him for probably very little in terms of what the asking price is. And then one more for the deeper competitive leagues. You might not even need to buy low on Jake Burger because he's only rostered in about 2/3 of Yahoo leagues right now. So if he's out there, I would go ahead and make a claim. But if you are in one of those leagues where basically every good player is taken, well, let's go ahead and try to get some Burger. Now, he's getting a day off because he's been brutal since coming off the injured list himself. 2 for 29. It's not what we had seen before the injury. It's not what we expected coming out of it. Remember, he started the season on fire. First 16 games, 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, and he was hitting for average as well, which is what we had seen ever since he came over to Miami. Well, clearly that injury and the time off disrupted his timing because, like I said, barely can buy hits since then, and also not a single walk as opposed to 8 strikeouts, and this is all in the month of May. When you have a slugger who's slumping that badly and who's already on a pretty bad offense, I can see why there's no interest here, but hey, we know that he does have plenty of power, and he has hit for average, so give him a little bit more time, I think, to shake things off here. He will be fine, I think. And I'm going to go ahead and try to get him on the cheap as well. Again, you might not even need to trade for him, but if you're in one of those leagues where he is rostered and he's just sitting on somebody's bench, swap a bench player in exchange for him. Buying low is the name of the game. You can take advantage of your league mates, and you can also do that by beating the breakout, grabbing those prospects who could go off before they even know about them. I got that latest video right here for you if you haven't seen it yet.